Good evening, guys. This will be episode number 2 of Pontificating with Pete. Great to see you all. Hope everybody is doing well. Obviously, it's going to be a hot minute or two before everybody gets in, but hope everybody had a great weekend. We've got a huge show coming up. At 8:45, we're going to get started this evening. We're going to do our first candidates panel. It's going to be Texas, and we're going to have 2 federal candidates, Jasmine Crockett and Donna Imam, as well as Chris Leal and Lorenzo Dominguez. Hope I say his name right. 2 state house candidates for the state of Texas. But obviously wanted to come in and touch base with you guys this evening because this weekend was a big weekend. For those who may not know, Nina Turner was here in South Florida. And anytime Nina's in town, it's always a big deal. She was not initially planning to come down because obviously it's campaign season right now. And so that was a very big deal because she had previously scheduled an engagement related to Trayvon Martin's birthday memorial. So she happened to be down in the Miami area. We had a couple of events scheduled, and I was lucky enough, along with Jen, to help host an event for her in Broward, specifically Wilton Manors, at the Alibi Monkey Bar yesterday afternoon. And that was a great event. And needless to say, it was not only a great time, but for anybody who hasn't had the privilege of hearing Nina speak, I would highly encourage you to go to Jen's Instagram page and listen to about probably what I think is about 20 minutes worth of her speaking. And all I can say is I've heard her give many speeches before. This is without question one of her best. It had everything. It had the laughs. It had the high emotional tone that she is known for. It also had some very somber moments. It was very sad for a number of points. But her enthusiasm, her energy, it's everything that the progressive movement is supposed to be about. And she went on for at least 30 minutes straight, and she didn't stop to take a swig of water, not even for a second, which I thought was interesting because her campaign manager, Kara, who is an awesome lady, was right there with the water and wanted her to take a breath and take a drink. But she was like, nope, I'm going. And even though this was on short notice, we still managed to get about 30 people in the room, which was great. And Nina really is the best of us. There's really no other way that I could describe what Nina Turner means to me, probably what she means to quite a few of us, because I really do believe that she is the best we have in politics in many ways. And so for that reason, I want to remind everybody that while politics has its ups and downs, there are always going to be people that we can really rely on that are always going to be with us when it comes to the most important issues and obviously in the most dire times. I fully support Nina's campaign for Congress. I hope you will too. But what I will say, and this is one of the things that I found to be, you never want to look at the negative side of things in terms of what happens at a given event. But what ended up happening yesterday really upset me. And I really don't like it when there are people in the online left and what I would call the nihilistic online left, the movement that is always looking for something negative to attach themselves to. And unfortunately, that is something that is going to soil this race for her and for a lot of other progressives that are out there. If you don't like Nina Turner, I don't understand this obsession with trying to not only take her down, but anybody that is affiliated with her. So for those of you who may know Miami Jeff Campbell, he was at the event yesterday. And what ended up happening was he took a few pictures. Actually, I took a few pictures and I sent them to him, and he decided to post it on social media. And as a result of that, there were members of what I like to call the nihilistic left that basically were calling Jen and I traitors and people that shouldn't be trusted. And all I could think is, Is this ever going to end? Is there ever going to be a point where you have enough of this, where you have enough of just trying to find the negative in everything that goes on? There is no point to this, and there's no point in even commenting on it. But what's ultimately going to end up happening, and I really think that there's got to have to be this sort of consensus of people in the left movement that realizes that there are some people who are simply not meant to be part of a given movement because they are not offering anything of positive reinforcement. All they're doing is try to figure out a way to make it negative, and nothing positive could be possible. That is what ultimately ends up happening. I don't want to call anybody out by name because it doesn't do any good. But for anybody who feels that what Jen and I are doing down here in South Florida by helping Nina Turner win, and if Jeff Campbell just happens to be at the event, who cares? We're in it for a cause. I don't agree with Jeff on everything that he does or what he says. That's not that important to me. What's important to me is that we have common goals, and that common goal is electing Nina Turner to Congress. You're going to tell me that Nina Turner wouldn't be a better congressional representative than Shontel Brown? Somebody who's out there not only bragging about the infrastructure bill that is a corporate giveaway, but that now all of a sudden she found, Jesus, if you will, and supports Medicare for all? Or that she's somebody who claims that it's Nina who's taking the dark money in the race? That duplicitous nature has no bearing in politics. We don't need people like that. At least with Nina, you pretty much know what you're going to get. She can't change the world from one congressional seat, but my God, can she make a huge difference? And not just for Northeast Ohio, but for a lot of other people that are running for Congress. One thing you can say about Nina, she will support down ballot races, even in primaries. So she's not exactly concerned about whether or not she's stepping on the wrong people's toes. You got to give her credit for that. And if you have never heard Nina speak, I'm talking really speak. Listen to that speech that she gave. Go to Jen's Instagram page. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. Jen FL23, I'm pretty sure. Go check it out. I highly recommend it. And it's 20 minutes long, and you'll get all the ebb and flows of everything. Some really heartfelt moments from Nina. I mean, I was blown away, and I've seen her speak many times, but this was really special. And it was in a small venue. It's not like there were 1,000, 2,000 people there for her to speak to, but there was something really empowering about that moment. And I guarantee you, and it's always the same people, the people who had a problem with us supporting Nina Turner or Miami Jeff being at the event, I guarantee you they didn't listen to Nina's speech. There's no way they listened to it. Because if they did, they may have taken a step back for a second and said, wow, she really is something, isn't she? But maybe not. Maybe they would have listened to it and said, oh, she's a phony. She doesn't really mean what she's saying. Those are just crocodile tears. She doesn't actually give a damn. I really don't know what the objective is of some of these individuals who claim to be on the left. I don't know what their goal is. I don't think they have one. You want to say it's a grift? You want to say that their intention is to make a few bucks or to try to build some type of a media brand? Okay, great. I guess that's their goal. But how many people do you have to shit on in order to get there? I don't have time for, no one has time for this. I don't know how anybody does. How do you have time for this? At least Nina's trying. You don't like Jeff? Okay, fine. You don't like him. Who cares if he's there? He's there supporting Nina. You're not getting anywhere if you think you can cut off everybody that you don't like. You're going to have a very, very small echo chamber if you think you can do that. It's no different than what we saw online once again the other day with Andrew Yang. Yeah, he said a stupid thing. He had very little nuance in his statement regarding Joe Rogan. But everyone who wants to just cast him aside, like he has no relevance whatsoever to any type of political movement. Again, I don't know how big of a movement you think you're going to build without people from different coalitions. As long as the consensus goal is the primary issues that we're fighting for. Andrew Yang supports universal health care. He supports UBI. He supports ranked choice voting. He supports open primaries. He supports a robust climate plan. How do you not want somebody like that in your coalition? You don't agree with all of his economic philosophies? That's fine. No one's going to agree with everything. But this idea that you just have to cast him aside like, oh God, don't have anything to do with him. Nonsense. Way too often, we are finding ourselves not able to get our acts together because we think that political puritanism is possible. Maybe in a drum circle it's possible, but in the real world, it isn't. And people are not going to tolerate that. They're not going to tolerate it to the extent that they will vote against their own interests if they have to make a point. I don't want people to be voting against their own interests. And that leads me into what I think is a very important topic that we're going to discuss next week with Melanie DeRigo, who is running once again for New York's 3rd Congressional District. She was the only person who had the courage to challenge corporate incumbent Tom Suozzi in that district in 2020. She did pretty good. I think she got around 40% of the vote. Did pretty well. And now Suozzi is running for governor, and it's an open seat. And guess what's happening? Not a surprise. Everyone and their mother from outside the woodwork is looking to jump into that race. And everyone is entitled to run if they want to run. But don't forget who put in the work. That's Melanie DeRigo. She put it in. And the reason I'm bringing this up and the reason this is important is because there is another progressive candidate who now hopped into the race, a political climber by the name of Alessandra Biaggi. She is in the state Senate in New York. She has made a name for herself. And unfortunately, the Justice Democrats and a number of other people, including Congressional Representative Jamal Bowman, have already come out and endorsed her. I really don't understand how the left has such disregard for people who put in the work. I don't see it in any other political circles. I just don't. There is an appreciation for those who put in the work. On the left, we got a really big problem with that. And Jamal Bowman, of all people, should know better. This is a man who is very worthy of being in Congress and was also somebody who was subject to being scoffed by the Congressional Black Caucus in favor of Elliott Apartheid Engel. And he still won. So he should know that this is a big deal. And I'm not saying that he should go and endorse Melanie. That's not necessary. But you're going to endorse somebody else. Melanie DeRigo was on your slate with the same organization, Brand New Congress. Alessandra now all of a sudden is in that race and you're just going to endorse her? She hasn't even started running yet. Why don't you at least wait to see what she's going to do? It is a federal seat, and most of the district is in Long Island, and she does not represent Long Island. He's entitled to do whatever he wants to do. But what I can assure you, and what I can assure anybody who's out there that has issues with the progressive movement in particular, is this. If you can't trust anybody, let's say somebody like Jamal Bowman, who is either going to remain neutral or respects that people have put in the work like Melanie to make it possible in order to win that seat. People are going to get discouraged from ever getting involved because they're going to know that there's nobody there who gives a damn about them. What's the point of running if they can't get any support, if they can't fundraise effectively, if they can't get enough grassroots boots on the ground to get behind them and do the work? What's the point? There isn't any. And that's when people will check out. And that's when you've got a real problem. You want to know why people like Governor DeSantis and even Donald Trump are going to have an excellent opportunity to take back the White House and flip this country dead red very soon? It's because of moves like this. You're not helping anybody. You're just currying political favor. You're no different than a corporate Democrat who's trying to curry favor to climb the next rung on the ladder. What good are you doing? Stay out of the race. Give them an opportunity to make their case. They haven't even had a debate yet. Let them have a primary debate. Figure out then who the best candidate is, who's done the most work, who's established themselves, and recognize that that's where things need to go. But no, let's put the thumb on the scale now. Screw whoever decided to work hard for the last 3 years and establish a legitimate foundation in the area. Who cares? This is our show now. It's for the big leagues. It's not right. There really is a thing about loyalty, and people have no understanding of what that means. I'm a small business owner. I've been doing it for over a decade, and I can assure you that loyalty really matters a lot. Not blind loyalty, but honest loyalty. Loyalty in the sense that you don't owe anybody an endorsement, but you owe the movement an honest degree of, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. There's a lack of respect for what people go through, for what they put themselves through. It is tough. Let me tell you something. I mean, running Jen's campaign, I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I had, how hard I worked, how much we strived to get as much support as we could. We desperately wanted people that were in independent media, for example, to give us a lift. They never did. We remember those who did, and there were quite a few. There were also quite a few who never did. There were people in certain progressive circles that never came out and supported Jen. And Jen is running against one of the absolute worst representatives in the country. It sucks. That doesn't mean you give up, but it does make you recognize just how precarious the movement really is. Because it's got great potential. I mean, we could do extraordinary things in this country if we actually got our act together. That's kind of what we're waiting on right now. Where are we going to go? I don't know. But I really wish things were just a little bit better in terms of the movement itself regarding how we support one another, because we don't. It's basically every man, woman, and child for themselves. And especially if somebody gets in, forget it. Now they really forget about who was there to help them in the first place. And that's so bad. It's so bad. The GOP doesn't do that. They're very loyal. And they remember those that put in the work. Now, obviously, there's a lot of blind loyalty there, and that's where they're wrong. And they're wrong about a lot of things. But that loyalty factor, that's there. That's why they win. They're very loyal to those who put in the work. They really are. In fact, if you were to go to any local RNC chapter, what you will find is that they value the precinct committee leaders more than anybody else. They think that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, not the elected official. They recognize who gets these people elected. They know where the bread is buttered. To their credit, they understand it better than most. So credit to them for not losing sight, not missing the ball. They don't. And there's a lot that the left can learn about that. I don't know if they're capable of. There's so many egos. There's so many cooks in the kitchen. There's a number of things that I've been doing recently that I'm not getting any credit for. And frankly, I don't give a damn. Because it's not about me. It's about the movement. That's what matters. And that's the way we should all be looking at this. I wish that was the case, but it isn't. But somebody's got to say something. So when I see these types of behaviors happening that are sent directly in Melanie's direction, and I'm sure it'll happen to a lot of others too, but this is just one clear example. And the same is true for Nina. The things that Nina has done, what Nina has given up for the movement, she could have taken a very, very easy road if she wanted to. And she is an amazing political talent. If you have never heard her speak, my Lord, is she great. In fact, I think she's probably the best. Yeah, I would pick her first, especially on the stump. Man, if Bernie campaigned just like Nina the entire way through, probably would have been president. But alas, we are where we are. And so what I would say is that if you're involved in politics and you really care about where this country is going, you would support Nina Turner. There is no perfect. And while the Democratic Party is a wasteland in many respects, we are not there yet in terms of the electoral infrastructure that is needed in order to form a third party. We need to work on that. That's why we're pushing for ranked choice voting right here in Florida with a ballot initiative. Hell, you could be pushing for jungle primaries. That might be the ticket. But electoral reform comes through a ballot initiative. It ain't coming through Capitol Hill, because whatever they're going to push through, it's going to be pushed through to the benefit of one party over the other. So that's not the answer. That's not what we need. And this is really no different than what we just saw in New York. Once again, coming back to New York has gerrymandered their state from an 18-8 Democratic advantage to a 23-3 Democratic advantage. You want to talk about a real gerrymander job? They just gave themselves a net plus 10. This has nothing to do with what the GOP does. This has everything to do with how you get an advantage for your side. If you really care about electoral reform, look at the organization ungerrymandered in Michigan. They give a damn because it's an independent council that drew the district lines in the state, 14 districts, and they drew them honestly. It was, I believe, an 8-6 advantage for the Democrats, and it was fair districts. Fair districts. That's what we need. But I think that has been put to bed. I think it's pretty clear that has been put to bed. So when we think about where we are right now, there's a reason why the movement is rudderless in a lot of ways. And that is this issue with nihilism mixed with lack of loyalty. There is a really big problem here. And it's like it almost ruined the mojo of the moment of being in Nina's presence, being there, recognizing just how powerful she is and how important it is that we elect her to Congress, and knowing that there are still people out there who all they want to do is tell us how wrong we are. And yet, I don't see any solutions coming from them. They just want to piss and shit in the pool. That's all they care about. Prove me wrong. I don't really see anything of positivity coming from any of you guys. And I watch you every day. And all you want to talk about is how bad things are. Credit to some of the movement who focus on mutual aid, because that's what we try to do down here. That's great. And that makes a difference. But most of the time, the focus is always on complaining about others and what they're doing and how this group's wrong and that group's wrong and all this, that, and the other thing. It is unfortunate. But I ain't giving up. Not for a second. Not for Nina. She's given everything to this movement. And the least we could do is give her our support. And it really does make you wonder what's going to happen next. One thing I do know is that when corporate special interests get involved in some type of a circumstance, it is always to distract you from focusing on policy that will benefit working people. And that is why the story of Joe Rogan has been dominating the headlines for well over a week now, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. Now, partially it's because on the one hand, they really hate him because they hate how much attention he gets. Another may be part of what he has said, and he's apologized. Whether context, matters or not. For some people it does, for others it doesn't. I think context does matter. But words matter too. And for some, they don't want to hear it. So Joe apologized. But that's not enough. Not for the rage mob, not for the woke mob. No way. Never enough. And so what I found very interesting today, and I've always felt that one of the worst aspects of the Democratic Party is how the people they answer to are the upper class urban liberals. They are the ones who dominate the dialogue, the arena when it comes to what topics are going to be discussed. It's part of the reason why we never really talk about any major economic issues. That's a very big part of this problem, because when you're focused on what urban upper class liberals care about, economics for working class people is not the first thing they think about. So woke politics works very well. And no one embodies that more than Don Winslow. And the reason I'm bringing him up specifically is because he has apparently been at the forefront of trying to get Joe Rogan kicked off of Spotify. What I found very interesting, though, is that it was brought to my attention earlier today that apparently what he is trying to get Joe Rogan kicked off for, use of the N-word on his podcast, is a word that he himself, Mr. Winslow, has used in his novels for many years. Many times. So when we talk about pot meet kettle, it doesn't get much more obvious in this instance. Will people acknowledge it and call out context or call out the hypocrisy of what he was doing? I don't know. Probably not. Because Mr. Winslow is in the club and Joe Rogan isn't. And that's a big part of it. And there are people who say, well, Rogan is rich and he's got this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, but Rogan has complete control. He has complete creative control of his show. No one tells him what to say or to do. Whereas people like anybody you could think of that's on CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News, they have corporate sponsors that they answer to. That is their talking points. And so now you have somebody, Mr. Winslow has been extremely influential in the Democratic establishment for quite some time. But he's been caught. And now it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. I don't think anything's going to happen to him. Maybe the story will fade away now. I don't know. But man alive, the desperation to talk about anything that is not related to the interests of working people, anything to distract us. That's what we're faced with now, guys. We have to control the narrative. The narrative must always come back to economic interests for the working people of this country, which is the overwhelming majority right now. People are hurting. And I don't know how much more, the establishment thinks people are going to be willing to take. It truly is amazing. It really is. But maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't amazing. Maybe we're all just starting to wake up now and realize just how broken the system really is. And it is broken, baby. It's broken. I think that the liberal class, and this is really upper liberal class, they have a tendency to think that they are in control of what people say or that they should be. If you don't like what Joe Rogan has to say, don't watch his show. Unless you are calling for violence, which he isn't, unless you are espousing hatred, he's not. He is allowed to say what he wants to say. You want to say that Spotify is obligated? They're a private company. They can do what they want. But again, when you have people like Brian Stelter and Jim Acosta of CNN trying to get Joe Rogan kicked off of Spotify, at what point does it cross a line in terms of their role as supposed journalists? And I use that term loosely. There is a lot of jealousy of Joe's success. In fact, he absolutely obliterates Jim Acosta and Brian Stelter in the ratings. I have disagreements with Joe on a number of things, as I'm sure you who are watching and will watch do. But be careful what you wish for when you try to censor people. It really goes without saying that we are in a very, very dangerous time right now. And you're really asking for trouble if you think that this is going to end well. It won't. It never does. I want to see the calls for Don Winslow to be canceled the way it's been done for Joe Rogan, but it won't. And that's really what needs to happen. Jen put out a tweet earlier that said, basically, the Democrats are going to get humbled in the midterms. And one of the reasons they will is because of upper class liberal mouthpieces like Don Winslow. And it's the truth. That's not to say that they shouldn't have a voice in politics, but they have not only the loudest voice, they also want to have the only voice. And that I simply can't accept. And neither should anybody else. I hope you guys appreciated this abbreviated conversation this evening. Pers, it's always great to see you. I'll probably start letting people know in advance that I'll be going live. This was sort of a last minute thing because we're starting our main live stream tonight in just under an hour. So it's a little bit later. Hanzo, I agree. This is one of the things that we've been trying to do. And like I said, I know there are a lot of people who want to get a third party going, and there is no reason not to keep trying. But it's not at a point where the infrastructure is in place where it can actually have an impact. That's the impasse that we're at right now. That could always change, of course. If we get ranked choice voting on the ballot and pass it in a number of states, like right here in Florida, that's going to make a big difference because independent-minded voters will be more inclined to vote who don't want to be part of either of the two parties, and rightfully so. That could be the ticket. Could make a big difference. And so, as I said, I am, day by day, I get a little bit more concerned about how much further we're sinking, because we're sinking into an abyss I'm not sure we're going to get out of. And this idea that I want to cancel Joe Rogan because what he said hurt my feelings. Oh, Lord, help me. How did we get so soft? Like I said, you don't like Joe, go watch something else. Go watch Brian Stelter. If that's your cup of tea, of course. It certainly isn't mine. So with that said, it's great to see you guys. I will definitely be letting you know more consistently a time and a place where I will be going live. Whether this becomes, like I said, a weekly spot, you know, I'll determine that. Wish I had more interaction with the audience, but that'll come with time. Leonard's Law is a good one, Pers. So with that said, appreciate you all. See you at 8:45.